The Apple Magic Keyboard Folio is a great way to turn your 10th or 11th generation iPad into a little mini laptop tablet combo. All you have to do is put the case on the back of it. This has the kickstand side. Then the keyboard uses a smart connector and just magnetically attaches. Then on the back of the case, you have the kickstand, so you can set it up super easy like this. Whenever you're ready to take it somewhere, you just fold it up into this nice lightweight little tablet. So I love how simple and minimal this setup is, and you get a lot of added functionality to your iPad. And if you want to just use the iPad as an iPad, you can just easily remove the keyboard and hold it like this, and the kickstand stays on the back. Or you can also flip the keyboard over to the back of it and still hold it like this and have it out of the way. I think the main claim to fame with the Magic Keyboard Folio is it really expands the capabilities of even the base model iPad. What I love about this is you get the full function right on the top of it, so you can adjust your screen brightness or turn up the volume of the iPad, skip tracks. You can also put it on Do Not Disturb mode. And then there's also the trackpad, which the trackpad to me really elevates the whole user experience of the iPad, and it works really well. It activates certain functions using iPad OS that really closely mirror a Mac, but in a much more focused and small and minimal form factor. Let's do a quick typing test with the Magic Folio. The first thing I noticed when I compared this to the iPad Pro or the iPad Air Magic keyboards, or even to my MacBook Air's keyboard, is the keys on this feel a little bit more hollow, and I don't find them to be quite as accurate to use or quite as satisfying. But after I used it for a little bit, I did get used to it, and the sound of it is a little bit louder than some of those other devices as well, but it's still pretty comfortable to type on. It does take a while to get used to, though, because the keys are a little bit squeezed together whenever you compare them to something like a 13-inch MacBook Pro. You're just going to find that your fingers feel a little bit cramped on it. But I think it's really worth it because you get the trackpad on it and because it is such a minimal setup to be dealing with. There's no Bluetooth pairing or battery life or anything else like that to worry about. One con of this is you can't adjust the screen brightness, but there's no backlighting available on it, and it's also only available in white, so you're going to be stuck with the white setup. And if that's not the color scheme that you're looking for, then you're just out of luck because that's all it comes in. There's a couple other cons to this, namely that all the sides of the iPad are exposed, so this really isn't a case to protect your iPad as much as it's a case that just has a kickstand and a keyboard and is very compact. Another thing I noticed is I wish that the keyboard itself kind of locked into place a little bit better. Depending on how you're moving this around, it does have a tendency to wiggle off to the side, which I find to be kind of annoying. Another thing I don't prefer with this is it has the kickstand, which this kickstand is way more solid than any of the Logitech Combo Touch kickstands. But whenever you get used to the iPad Magic Keyboard and you have the cantilever design, you're just going to really appreciate how rigid and sturdy that feels. This works great on a desk. I love using it on a desk. It works okay on a lap, not anywhere as sturdy as using the Magic Keyboard, so it's not going to be as great of a laptop case as it's going to be a desktop case, but that might be perfectly fine for you depending on the way that you're planning on using this. I find this is a fantastic note-taking machine and also for creative writing because it gets rid of all the distractions of the bigger computers and just notifications flying around everywhere, and I have the iPad set up to be super minimal, just using the Notes app to take notes and write things out. It does a great job at that. And this is going to be the cheapest way that you can get an iPad with an Apple keyboard case. If you go for the iPad Air M3 and you get the Magic Keyboard for the M3, then that's going to run all the way up to $600 for the iPad and about $270 for the keyboard case. This one, unfortunately, still runs for $250 if you buy it new, which I find to be a little bit pricey for just getting a keyboard case and there's no cantilever design or anything like that on it. I think Apple definitely could have knocked the price down on this quite a bit. It probably should have gone for something close to $150 or $180. I think where it's really worth it, though, is if you want to save money on the iPad itself, because you can get the iPad 11th generation for $300 or $350, which is going to be half the price of getting the iPad Air M3. There's a couple features you're missing, like Apple Intelligence, and you're also not going to be able to use Stage Manager or multitask quite as well, but you can still do dual windows on this iPad, and the keyboard really adds a lot of great functionality. So I think the Magic Keyboard Folio is really worth looking into if you want to save money on your iPad setup while still getting the added trackpad, the function keys on top of it, and just having this setup be so easy to be put away. And if you ever want to use it as an iPad, it's so easy to just snap the keyboard off, use it as an iPad, do different drawing or other things on it, and then put it back together. One other thing I do think they could have done is the kickstand doesn't go quite as shallow as some of the other kickstands, so it's not going to be quite as good for drawing if you want it slightly elevated, but if you're fine with having it flat on your desktop, then it's still going to work fine that way as well. So who is the Magic Keyboard Folio for? This is for you if you want to have a nice keyboard case, add a trackpad, add function rows, and if you don't want to go all the way up to the iPad Air M3, or if you don't want to get an iPad Pro, this is going to give you a very similar experience to what those models offer in a much more affordable package. It works really well. You just have to get used to having the keys spaced together a little bit tighter, and you'll also have to get used to the slightly different key feel and travel compared to the nicer MacBook Air or MacBook Pro keyboards. But overall, this is a solid offering for anyone who's looking for a great keyboard case for the iPad 10th or 11th generation. If you're interested in buying the Apple Magic Keyboard Folio, I do have links to buy in the description below. If you got any other questions about this, leave a comment. I'd love to hear them. Like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming content.